Now, let's look at all the breakdown. We have debt services, which is, of course, at 943 billion naira, and a statutory transfer of 411.8. What's your take on that?
Well, one big debt service, most of it is obligatory. You don't really have much room to maneuver unless you want to start to default, create more issues. So that's sort of locked in budget. And so really, the government has not reached that state of desperation where it can begin to either default or ask for, once you start to ask for renegotiation of debt obligations, you are giving a signal that there's serious problem. So I think that's locked in, really. It's like the salaries we're talking about on the recurrent side. Some of these things are locked in. Minister or anybody in government that can do that. You have the option of renegotiation, but we are nowhere near to do that. So we will have to leave and look at the top side. How do we increase revenues? That's the real question. In terms of strategy, how do we increase revenues? How do we diversify the revenues? We have agreed we are beyond oil. Which are the other sources? Have we looked at solid minerals, for example? What are we doing to develop other areas in the economy that either we have not paid attention to at all, or we have only paid lip service for quite a while?
All right. Now, the medium-term expenditure framework was supposed to be approved before the budget, is presented, but this didn't happen. Do you think there is need to worry about this?
Well, worry in the short term, it couldn't be done. But again, it couldn't be done because clearly the government was struggling with the right framework, while the reality was staring us all in the face, that oil was going down very rapidly. There are people in government who did not want to face that reality, who thought, like our legislators, some governors, and say maybe the prices will still go up, maybe 2016, 2017, we should still be looking at $100 per barrel, $90 per barrel. So those kind of things influence the medium-term framework, and that struggle has been going on. But as has been said quite often by long-term observers of the economy, 6 years back, the President of America had said they are going to make America energy independent. So anyone that was doing medium expenditure frameworks should have simply seen that that is going to happen. There was a country that has the capacity to do what it wants to do. So America has the capacity to do what it really wants to do, especially for itself. It had the resources. They were all there in the ground. They had always had oil in the ground. They were not exploiting because it was comfortable to take oil from Nigeria, the Middle East, and everywhere. But this president says, I'm going to stop that because we are losing. So if we had accepted that reality way back 2-3 years and say, look, oil price is going to go down, forget this as you are seeing, it's going to go down. And to say, let's be working on $70, $60 from 2 years back. Today, it would be very easy to do a medium-term expenditure framework that is based on $50 a barrel.
But for some time now, the issue of oil benchmark has been an issue or concern between the legislature and, of course, the executive arm.
That's because there is a struggle between the brain and the heart among those people. The legislators, most of them are well informed. They have advisors. They know that oil prices will come down. But the heart, the desire to still get a lot of money in their hands and the big budget and for their constituencies always drive them to say, no, you can't come down to 80 or 79, let's leave it at 80, and no, who needs excess crude account? Governors say we need the money. So that kind of struggle continued. It is now that it has dawned on us that it is real. It is not just some analysts say prices will come down. it's real. It's broken down in our face. We can see it. So it will be easier now to do a medium-term expenditure framework that says, for example, let's look at $50 a barrel as far as oil. Let's look at a much higher tax revenue. Let's look at a higher export industry. Let's look at a higher food production and processing. Let's look at self-sufficiency in rice, sugar, vegetable oil, and let's build that into the expenditure framework. What does it take to achieve self-sufficiency in those things as far as government is concerned? What does it take to build our local automobile industry? Those are the things that we are going to be putting into medium-term expenditure framework. Until even as early this year, some people were still arguing whether we should make cars in Nigeria. For some reason, it was still cheap to make cars. But today, nobody is arguing whether we should promote local industry for the automobile sector. Everybody now sees that you have to do it. So the medium expenditure framework going forward is easier to do. The arguments between legislators, governors, and the federal government are going to be less, because it's not more a theory or some speculation by some analysts. It's just what we can all see.
All right. Now let's look at all the assumptions and parameters. A revised GDP growth rate, now 5.5%.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes, that's the government, particularly the minister and the budget office, being very realistic, saying that, okay, oil price is coming down, so it's going to affect certain things. And of course, because we have a higher base now, we are now talking of $510 billion as our base, unlike under $300 billion before we rebased. But it is important to emphasize that that is taking prudent estimate. The reality is that we are likely to grow faster than. The reason is that we have been forced to have those arguments that force us to do this.
Are you sure we've been forced to avoid them?
Well,
or we're yet to see them come?
The point is that legislators are not going to be fighting for $70 a barrel.
Okay, let's.
So that's going to. So we are going to see a rapid growth. Those sectors that are just picking up: rice, vegetable oil, sugar. Particularly these three sectors where we are geared for self-sufficiency. You see the volume of expenditure going into these sectors. There are farms coming up, 20, 30,000 hectare farms around the country. Billions of dollars investments going to them. You are going to see a lot of that growing up very fast in 2015. So the economy may well turn out growing faster than more than 5.5.
Okay, I like that optimism. Anyway, the exchange rate is at 165. That's what they are pegging it at. And considering the devaluation of the naira, we have the CBN devalued the naira now, official rate at 168. I mean, that band. And now looking at the volatility in the foreign exchange market, and then we have this 165 naira as the proposed target. How realizable is that?
Well, again, you look at it with the $65 per barrel. It is most likely unattainable, but it's on the positive side for government to have a competitive exchange rate, because that's the rate that will be used to exchange the dollars that come in before you distribute to everyone, every level of government. Of course, those levels of government may complain that why are you giving us dollars at 165 when it's actually 170, now 180 in the market. They may complain, but it's a good thing to take that lower level for the purpose of conversion of the dollar income.
All right, just a quick one. Budget implementation has always been an issue. So how are we sure this other one will be implemented, what we're having now? Well, the finance minister talked about how much they implemented the 2014 budget. But this is an election year. Well, next year we'll do the election and perhaps we'll have a new government. How do you see this out?
I think the good thing this year is that the minister has given advance notice that we are not going to implement this budget as you are seeing it. She called it the scenario approach budget. That's what essentially scenario approach means, that what we are presenting now may not be done. Because if we wake up 1st of February and oil comes down to $50 a barrel, we are going to come back to assembly and say that budget we gave you is no more possible, because we use 65, but you all see now that, So nobody is very optimistic about budget implementation being so close to 80-90% as we used to see. And she has essentially given the reason up front, so that expects that kind of level.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Idahosa. It's been an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I've been speaking with Mr. Gabriel Idahosa. He's an economist and, of course, the CEO UHY Margie and Company. I want to indicate the issues surrounding the 2015 budget and, of course, the economy in general. Well, it's in that note that we'll say thank you very much for being part of the program today. Do remember to join us again same time tomorrow. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu. Have a lovely day.